Welcome, Sandeep, Anirudhan, and Raj Dugar on India Today's SoSouth discussion today. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are addressing a very pertinent issue, one that again seems to be, probably going to be hurting Bangalore in terms of its infrastructure, I could say, or maybe not, or I don't know, but that's exactly the perspective we want to understand today. The government has come forward and, passed the F.A.R bill that we're talking about, the floor area ratio and property taxes, which are also going to rise. So let's start off by actually addressing the first part of this conversation. If we can begin by throwing light on what is this new bill, which is literally, having the activists of the city of Bangalore, urban planners being very critical about the floor area ratio bill. Why is it meeting so much of criticism? If we can start with that.
I'll speak of it purely in terms of planning. The city has a capacity, and every area in the city has a capacity. So, in a planning perspective, the F.A.R ratio is normally computed in a manner so that the buildings that come up are they do not put uh, uh, extra burden on a particular area, and the amenities of that area can cope with the density of population that arises. Not only the population, all the other needs, such as infrastructure needs like water, sewage, power, and the like, and any sort of commercial activity that comes up in and around that area can uh, be sustained by the capacity of this area. So the F.A.R is defined in a planning perspective. But now, if the government starts saying, "Oh, you give me extra money, I'll let you build extra floors or extra area," what does it do to the entire area? The layout will not be able to cope with that additional population. It will not be able to provide services like power, water, sewage, parking, area for vehicles to travel. So the entire area collapses as a result. This is why these sort of proposals are dangerous. I don't know if it's passed yet. It was only adopted in the lower house. I don't know if it has passed the upper house and the governor's consent. I'm hoping that the upper house, just as it struck down the bill on some religious things, some temple funds being utilized for everything. Similarly, they show the same resolve in striking down this bill, because this has a potential to destroy all of Bangalore. That is how dangerous it is. Because no area in the city can cope with this additional growth. Every area has a limit. So what happens, just because some people there pay extra money and build more capacity, the entire area's residents will have to pay the price. Everybody will suffer power shortages, water shortages, sewage. And you come and see in Whitefield, this is a great example of unplanned growth. Buildings are already doing it. Now, this is the sad tragedy. What the government is proposing is already being done by builders. If you especially come to Madhipura, Whitefield area, the layouts are illegal in the first place. Therefore, they do not have the essential amenities as per BDA norms. Then the constructions that come up there are either without building plan approvals, which means the entire building is illegal, or in areas which are part of plan development, they take approvals as per the existing norms, F.A.R norms, and then they build extra, which is like 100, 200, 300% violation.
Above your permissible.
Exactly. And as a result, what happens in these layouts, you have constant power shortages. You have constant water shortage. There's literally no water available to anyone because BWSB cannot cater to that extra growth. Then on the streets, roads are filled with sewage. Why? Because the sewage pipes that exist cannot cope with that extra load. A building where, say, a family of 4 or maximum 10 people were supposed to live before, these people build PG buildings and have 7 to 8 floors where only 2 or 3 floors are allowed. As a result, 100 to 200 people are living there where only 5 or 10 people are supposed to live. Now, how will the sewage pipe on the street cope with it?
Absolutely.
How will the electricity? Yeah. So, as a result, that entire area is becoming a slum. It's just becoming a concrete slum. So, whichever minister is behind this bill wants to convert all of Bengaluru into a concrete slum, period. So, very soon, if this is how the government wants to go about it, very soon Bengaluru will become the largest slum in Asia. It will replace Dharavi as the biggest slum in Asia. The essential difference being Dharavi is a slum which is a part of Mumbai. of another city, right? Whereas here, the entire city will become a slum. This is going to be the consequence.
Very rightly pointed out, Sandeep sir. That's bringing that point which Sandeep sir, has actually led us into the next question. You also have come forward and said that, do you think this is, in no ways this is pro-people, it's pro-government? And throwing light on one of the stock examples, you spoke about Vasanagar area where you yourself stay. And, you spoke about PG accommodation, buildings coming up over there and the kind of chaos that it's been causing. So what exactly is wrong in terms when we say it's not a pro-people initiative at all? If you can throw some light on that.
Yeah, I think Sandeep has explained quite well, but what I'd like to say is that, there is a reason for the government to have applied F.A.R. for decades now. Now, first of all, let us understand what is F.A.R. If I have a site which is, let's say, 40 by 60, that comes to about 2,400 square feet. That's the size of the area of the site. And the government allows me to build, if the F.A.R. allowed is, let's assume, to be 1, it allows me to build a building whose total area should not cross the same area as the area of the site, that is 2,400 square feet. Now, suppose it is 1.25, then I'm allowed to build up to 1.25 times the size of the site. So a 40-60 site will allow me to build up to 2,400 square feet in that site. Following some other norms about floors and other things and setbacks. But then if I increase the FAR, I'll be allowed to build more floors, with the same setbacks. So what we are doing by this is, why, first of all, the basic question is, why was the FAR in the first place needed at all? So Sandeep has already covered the reasons for that, that without that, if somebody builds theoretically, if I build on a 5,000 square feet plot, if I build 100 floors, meeting the setback requirements, it is not sustainable by the city. Luckily, our city is not having a kind of a sea coast or something where it can't expand. It is a round, circular city. And the government, funnily enough, is going on building ring roads after ring roads. We had the inner ring road, then we have an outer ring road, then now we are having a STRR, which is almost ready. Then we're talking about a PRR. Why is that? So that people can, the services cannot take the load beyond a certain level. You mentioned Vasant Nagar. What happened about 4 decades ago? The sewage pipes were laid. And now, every now and then, we used to have choking in the sewage chambers. And these, unfortunately, the BWSSP people had to come repeatedly and keep on opening up the thing. And they used to tell what is actually blocking it. And the fact that the pipes were made, the diameter of the pipes were good for those days. But today, because the people are demolishing houses, building 3 floors, 4 floors, 5 floors. Now, if you allow that to happen, extrapolate this, like Sandeep said, sewage, water supply. We are facing a huge crisis about water very soon. Bangalore does not have very good water sources and electricity. If you're going to concentrate everything into one place, it's going to be very difficult, and the reliability of the services will go down drastically, which will very badly affect the city, and quality of life will go down.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, this, when we were talking about flows, additional flows being added, my question now that I want to ask is, does this mean that the BBMP being allowed to add these additional flows is because now the government can collect premium? And is this permissible? Should this be allowed, or is this allowed?
Why stop at 60%? Keep it open and keep collecting the money. That's not the way to do it. That's not the way to do it. If you want to collect money, let me tell you one simple thing.
There
are a lot of people who are not paying taxes, which are due to BBMP. There are a lot of undervaluations taking place. BBMP has to plug those loopholes first. As our representative government at the local level, it is their duty to first make sure that they're collecting what they're supposed to collect. They're not doing that. And instead of plugging those loopholes, they are burdening those people who want to pay more. Who want to pay honestly. So that's not the way to get money in.
Sandeep, so what would you have to say to this? For the sake of premium?
First of all, collecting a premium to destroy the city, it's like shooting yourself in the foot. This is an absolute no-no. It defies logic. It defies planning principles. And the Supreme Court last January already warned every other city in India not to follow the Bangalore template. It says Bengaluru is suffering a civic breakdown, a collapse. It termed it urban ruin. It said Bengaluru is suffering from urban ruin due to lack of I think they said lack of planning,
Right.
unplanned development. Exactly. This is the word the Supreme Court used. It said Bengaluru is suffering from urban ruin due to unplanned development. And it warned and it actually sent a notice to every other city government in India saying you should not follow the Bangalore example. It is a very bad example and everybody should avoid this. So what does it mean? The primary let's say the goal of our government should be to rectify that. If somebody no less than the Supreme Court has said your house is not in order, I think our first priority is to put a house in order. How do we put a house in order? You have to start planned development. Why are we not having planned development? Because we are one of the largest metropolises in the world which doesn't have a planning authority. Under the 74th Amendment, which was passed 3 decades ago, 1992 is when it was passed, the Constitution lays out that the planning authority for the city has to be the Metropolitan Planning Committee. We don't have one for 3 years. What excuse does a state government have to violate the Constitution, no less, for 3 decades? The chief minister's head should roll for this. The state government should be liable for this. So, first thing to put in order is we should have a proper planning authority. The MPC is not working now. Appoint people to it, appoint urban planners. Our city doesn't have urban planners. How do you expect to manage a large city like Bengaluru without urban planners? There are hundreds of urban planners we churn out from our universities. They go and work for countries abroad. They don't work in India because our government, for some silly reason, thinks that we can manage our city without urban planners. We need urban planners. Now, the next thing is we don't have master plan. Can you imagine a city the scale of Bangalore? It's one of the largest cities in the world. Doesn't have a master plan. The last one we created was in 2000. It is the RMP 2015. It has expired. The company, whenever BBMP does anything, it refers to a 2015 RMP, which is outdated, which was created 25 years ago. The land use has changed. The realities of the city have changed. Everything has changed. And we want to become Singapore. Do you know that Singapore has master plans for 50 years, 50, and we are working with zero master plan? How do you expect to reach the quality of Singapore if we don't even have a plan? So if we do not have a master plan right away, the city is already going.
It's crumbling.
It's getting it's crumbling. If we don't rectify this aspect, we just go and land in that dump much quicker than we can foresee, because a lot of these changes that are happening in the city are exponential. It's not like whatever changes happened from 1990 to 2000, and you see from 2000 to 2010, it was far more rapid. From 2010 to now, it is extremely rapid. All the mistakes that are happening are also very fast, much faster. And it's becoming overwhelming for the city to deal with. They are not able to deal with it, but it's still not fixing the basics. The 74th Amendment also dwells on governance. It talks about, even in the planning context, it talks about ground up planning, not top down. Areas are supposed to have their own area planning committees. So it will involve people. If you'll have real facts on the ground, and it will not be like the 2015 RMP is supposed to be one of the worst ever in the world, because it has no ground reality.
I think you were trying to raise a point too.
Yeah, I'd like to add one point specifically to do with this F.A.R. We need to understand one very important point, that this is an extremely non-inclusive step. For example, if I do not have the money, I have built a proper house as per current F.A.R. And my neighbor, he has deep pockets, he or she builds a huge, many floors above next to me. So what is happening? My quality of life is going to be affected, only because I don't have deep pockets. This is a non-inclusive thing. It is not a fair thing at all. When you're allowing people to build more at a
Right.
additional cost, then
Yeah.
you're keeping away that from so many other people. So it's a very unfair, imbalanced kind of an approach, which is not good for the city.
If both of you can actually tell me or throw light on this, if this could help. Now, the opposition in the state of Karnataka, the BJP, has also raised similar concerns about how this bill is going to only add to the existing burden of the city's infrastructure. In any way, adding a kind of a limit. Should a limit be fixed in terms of FAR when we talk about additional flows and whatever is it? Should it have a limit saying, okay, you cannot exceed this certain limit, probably stick to it? Will that help in any way?
No, I'll take that.
But
Sorry, I'll take that.
no,
So the thing is, when you're talking about infrastructure, see, we are talking about here, we'll include traffic. We've already spoken about sewage lines, water lines. We've spoken about electricity supply. All these are going to be stretched to the limits and beyond that if we go in for this kind of a regressive measure. But coming to traffic, let us not forget that Bengaluru is globally infamous for traffic congestion.
Right.
And the only solution is there is no solution of widening the roads and building extra roads and all of that. Now there is no land available for such things. Now, if you're going to allow higher FAR, where more people per square foot will be living there, we are going to actually aggravate the problem. No amount of public transport will also help, because the public transport has been designed. If you take metro, if you take BMTC, if you take the suburban rail, they are being designed as per certain current rules, regulations, where the FAR, excess FAR of 60% has not been factored in. So it's like, basically, it's like, making them less effective, even at their full, when they are fully completed. So we're going around in a circle and coming or running to stay in the same place.
Coming back at the same spot. Right.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not going to help at all.
Right. Yes, Sandeep.
So, yeah. So essentially, it's the same thing. We're talking of planning. See, these FARs are based on planning, how the city is planned. So, because the city's master planning and zoning are not being respected, is why there is a breakdown in civic services.
Right.
And now what the government wants to do is they want to play the villain. They want to further violate the existing plans. The limit that you're talking of is already existing. The FAR of 1 or 1.17 is the limit for a particular area based on the road width, based on the services available. So when the government wants us to violate it by paying money, so it's basically trying, just because they are prioritizing money. And why is this money becoming a priority now? The government doesn't have money. It claims to fund various projects or programs that they have announced, right?
Yes.
Should Bangalore pay the price for it? So it is an anti-Bangalore measure to fund the politicians' mistakes. So the politicians have to come up with far more creative ideas of raising funds. And as Raj rightly put it, the biggest reason we don't have sufficient taxes or thing is largely due to evasion or leakage. If we fix that, and we call ourselves the IT capital of the world, why can't we fix it with technology? Now, one of the biggest reasons, in fact, even this, the other topic that we're discussing about, which is the rise in taxes.
Yeah, coming to that. Yes, we're going to come to that. Yeah.
Both of these, in fact, that can actually fix the problem of the funds that you want to realize from the city by fixing the loopholes, which is use technology. You can GIS map the entire city, and which is a requirement not only for BBMP, it's a requirement for all departments which have to do planning, projects and stuff like that. We still don't have a universal GIS for the city. They've been working on it from the 1990s.
Right.
Why are we calling us as the IT capital of the world, of the country or the world, if we can't even for a civic services, we're not using IT? The potential is lost. There are hundreds of companies in Bengaluru which are doing this for cities worldwide.
Right.
Yes.
They are the back offices of the world, right? But our own city doesn't have a GIS. We don't have a uniform GIS which caters to all. On GIS, you can update every single building that exists. You can have photographs of every single building. You can improve the tax collection because of that. Planning for future facilities and capacity can be done by that, but we are
Yeah.
not utilizing it, which means being the IT capital is wasted on the city. All being the IT capital of the world is contributing to the city is by increasing congestion, increasing violations. We have unbridled, unplanned growth. There
Right.
are tech parks and constructions happening without control, and it's actually decimating the city. While we are actually providing good services to the rest of the world. A lot of other cities in the world are benefiting from our tech expertise, but we are not.